This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Here we go. What's up, everyone? Happy holidays and welcome to a big Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. And we've got lots to talk about coming out of the weekend. Of course, a really disappointing end to a disastrous first 35 games of the regular season for the Winnipeg Jets. They hit the road for 3 games and come out with 1 single point. And they had to work for that one, coming back from a 3-0 deficit yesterday in Utah. And then in a blink of an eye, it was over in overtime. The Utah Mammoth beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-3. And as we go into the Christmas break, folks, the Winnipeg Jets are 1 point out of the basement in the National Hockey League. They sit with 33 points, tied with the Vancouver Canucks, ahead of only the Seattle Kraken and the Chicago Blackhawks, who have 32 points. We're going to talk about it with Ken Wiebe. It's inconceivable when you think about the expectations for this team at the beginning of the year. And certainly the way this season started with a 9-3 record in their first 12 games, although I think we're seeing now that was a little bit of fool's gold. But the way the last 7 weeks have gone has been one way, and that is to the bottom of the NHL. And unfortunately, on the weekend with the games in Colorado and in Utah, they weren't able to get a win to start things off. Going to be a fascinating period coming out of the Christmas break, because it does feel like something has to give right now with this team. It certainly won't be the coach. And to be honest, the roster right now is just not put together for to really be able to compete with top teams in the NHL right now. I'm not questioning the way the team is working, but I certainly do question whether they have the horses, and I think we're getting the answer on a daily basis right now. So where this team goes from, well, we'll talk about it. We'll break down the games. We'll hear from Coach Scott Arneal. And really what I think we are going to be doing is probably spending a lot more time talking about scouting, talking about the draft. And, of course, the World Juniors coming up beginning on Boxing Day. Perfect time to bring in Shane Malloy from Hockey Prospect Radio on Sirius XM to get the latest on Team Canada, as well as some top draft-eligible players that will be wearing the Canadian jersey, as well as the rest of the tournament. So we will do that with Shane Malloy first up at 1:30. And then after we finish up with Shane, we'll have an extended conversation with Ken Wiebe on the Jets at the Christmas break, how it's gone so wrong, and what will occur or what can occur, how they can either turn things on or how they handle the situation that they're in right now going through the rest of the 47 games. So all of that coming up. We will hit out on a crazy weekend in the National Football League as well a little bit later on today. Quick reminder, gang, tonight, 8 p.m., we've got the second WST poker tournament where the top 4 finishers will qualify for the Costa Rica finals, which are happening in a couple weeks on the 12th of January. Tonight, 8 p.m., we'll look forward to seeing you there. Good luck to everyone that is looking to get into that finals for a trip to Costa Rica. Going to be amazing later on at the end of the month. Myself and Jeff Hamilton will be there, and you could be too. We'll have details up, but again, just go to coolbet.com. Click on poker. Once you get into the poker, go to tournaments and just search WST. You'll see it. There's today. There's the last chance qualifier on January 7th. Mark that one down as well. And then if you're able to qualify, you'll be playing on January 12th for that trip to leave 2 weeks a little later on. So see you tonight, 8 p.m. over at Coolbet. Check our socials for more information on how to enter if you haven't done it before. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, in addition to Coolbet, I want to thank all the great sponsors of WST. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Chud's Powersports, Manitoba Battery, Rolley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club, and Uptown Alley, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, our friends at the Winnipeg Jets. Why not? Question of the day for Not AutoCorp coming up, and of course, fan feedback for fansfirst.ca. Happy holidays to everyone joining us live right now on YouTube in the chat, as well as you, Michael Remis. How was the weekend?
Yeah, it's the most wonderful time, right? Isn't that
really?
How the song goes here? Not back to back, but two Jets losses in Colorado on Friday, which was closer than we expected, and the overtime loss last night to Utah. Us Winnipeg Jets right now, in the last 16 games, they announced this on the Sports Center postgame, 3-11-2. Have not won consecutive games in more than a month. And for, yes, a team that was the President's Trophy winners last year, you go down the NHL standings by league. They are 1 point out of the bottom, 1 point ahead of Chicago and Seattle. And I didn't know this. The Jets are on break right now. Did you know there's games today and tomorrow? I assumed everyone was on break, but there are games. So we'll see. If Chicago and Seattle, get points, well, the Winnipeg Jets would be in last.
That's right. And I believe both of them, Seattle's playing tonight in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Big slate of games tomorrow. Do we have the Blackhawks playing? Yeah, they're at home to Philly tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So, yes, the idle Winnipeg Jets could find themselves in what would be the 32nd spot of 32 teams. I mean, I can't say that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it, Reem, because we've basically been doing it and watching it in slow motion for the last 7 weeks. But, we went into the watch party in the game on St. Louis saying, okay, this team absolutely needed to have a minimum of 2 wins of 3 and 4 points, knowing how difficult it would be to win in Colorado. They ended up getting shut out by St. Louis. It took another couple periods to finally get on the board in Colorado. Fell short in that game. And then inexplicably and almost unforgivably came out with an absolutely atrocious first period yesterday where the Utah Mammoth were basically skating circles around the Winnipeg Jets. And, to their credit, they got it together later on. Power play was clicking. Kyle Connor with a couple beautiful goals. And Morgan Barron had himself a weekend. A big-time goal in both games against the Avalanche and the Utah Mammoth. So you get it to overtime. I mean, obviously, you're feeling better about that than a regulation loss. But then, unfortunately, Scott Arneal goes to Adam Lowry, who he had done in the past to start off overtime, try to gain possession, buy a little bit of time to get the big boys out there. Well, they didn't buy any time. Lost the draw, ended up getting juked, 2-on-1, bang, goal over. The Jets get 1 point, but you end up going into overtime without Scheifele, Connor, Marcy even getting on the ice. And probably a pretty quiet flight back to Winnipeg, I'd imagine, for the Winnipeg Jets after another disappointing stretch of hockey with just 1 point out of 3 very important games.
Yeah, very rough road trip through the Central Division. Losing to St. Louis, having a terrible first period and not scoring. Colorado, more respectable, but they really needed this 2 points against Utah and have the start that they did. Very disappointing. Scott Arneal's words in the postgame to describe that start, it was ugly. Really said that first period was ugly. It was really ugly. And you mentioned starts. The Jets took a penalty 45 seconds in. Neil Pionk with tripping, and it seems like it's been a trend here, taking early penalties. They have had 3 games this year with a penalty in the first minute of the game, but in total, in the first 5 minutes of a game, they've taken a penalty what is that, 8? Is that 8 times? Or maybe that's less than I thought, but it just seems like they're always behind the 8 ball. They're playing catch up, and yeah, they tied the game, but it just seems like it's been a trend where they get down, finally put in an effort to catch up, and then fall just short. And they had done that in overtime before. I looked back at our show in October 2022, where they started against McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, started Lowry, Appleton, Pionk. And I said, yeah, it worked. I wouldn't do that again. I don't think that's a winning formula. And that's the worst part about it, is as you lose a game without having your best players on the ice in overtime. That's the downside of playing for defense in 3-on-3 overtime. Not a formula that I would use. But as I said back in October 2022, I'm just a guy here on YouTube. I'm not an NHL head coach. It didn't work. It backfired. But it's kind of like when a baseball team loses the game without using their closer, without using your best reliever. You'd rather lose a game with having your best guys, Scheifele, Connor, out in overtime. And like Adam Lowry, it's not like he's been scoring a ton lately. But if you don't go down 3-0 and have to battle back, and credit to them for battling. I mean, what a beautiful goals there by Kyle Connor, who scored his 300th career, and Morgan Barron stepped up again. Then you're not in an overtime situation. So I don't think that was an optimal OT decision. It's worked before, and didn't work out. Didn't work out for them last night.
Yeah, and just as far as the overtime goes, Arneal was asked about it by Mike after the game. We'll play it. And he said, well, he'd run Scheifele and Connor pretty hard, which he had. I mean, if you look at the ice time for the game, I mean, those two, Scheifele was almost 24 minutes. Connor was just over 23. You had Gabe Vilardi play 18-something, and then no other forward more than 14. So, I mean, they are going into this break in that final game, knowing how important it was. He was riding the top two of Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. And of course, Connor did get those 2 goals. The issue for Arnie right now is when you look down the bench, and even when you're talking about splitting up Scheifele and Connor, I mean, just nobody else is going right now. And this is not anything new. There's been a complete lack of secondary scoring pretty much all year. But, I mean, I'm sure they thought at some point this was going to change and this was going to turn around. And finally, sooner or later, a few guys would step up. And just, I mean, this is the team that they've put together and assembled right now. And what that's been good enough for is people to fire up the draft lottery simulators for the second half. We'll talk about this with Ken. I mean, you mentioned, Remo, that there's games today and tomorrow and the Jets are not playing. And maybe the extended break will be, I'll tell you what, it's pretty clear that everybody, starting with the head coach, needs this break right now, because the frustration levels right now of this team probably are through the roof. Certainly they should be. And, when the losses keep mounting and you keep trying different things with the same results, it can really weigh. I'm sure it is weighing mentally on everyone. I mean, you heard Adam Lowry last night, both after the game. But like at the first intermission, he straight up called his team soft in the first period. So after the first period in the intermission. And it's not something you've heard coming out of Adam Lowry's mouth very often, but maybe an important message from the captain to the rest of the team. I don't have any answers right now. Just a whole lot of questions. And frankly, with every loss that this team puts up in the standings and falls further away from the playoff line with more teams in between them, it does beg the question, how bad can it get, and how this might change the direction of the team in the second half and in the big picture.
Yeah, and one thing they did to start the game yesterday was move Gus Nyquist up with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, and Nyquist had a nice game on Friday, and he was inserted on power play 1 for Cole Perfetti, who struggled. And I like this move. You got to get this guy going, because the trade deadline is going to come, and normally, a team that's out of the playoffs would trade veteran players who are, UFAs for first-round picks if you can get that. And the Jets, I feel like they don't really have anyone who's going to net them like an Andrew Kopp style return. like they got from the Rangers a couple years ago? Is Logan Stanley going to be their biggest trade chip at the deadline? Or a guy like Gus Nyquist who's had success, you play him with some top guys, maybe show he still can get some points and, increase his value, and it would help the team out as well if he could score. So you sign this guy to a contract, and he's got 0 goals this year. So that didn't last long though. So they moved him off. They did end up coming back to tie. So it seemed like it was the right move there. But yeah, as the season goes and they're further out of the playoffs, you have to look, okay, what are these guys going to do to try and retool for next year? And I do see everyone in chat saying, putting tank emojis, tank puns.
Oh yeah.
I will say, like, if they do luck into like a lottery win like the Islanders did with Matthew Schaefer, I mean, what a bump would it be for this organization to get a top player? So I'm curious how it's going to play out and how they're going to retool, and what's going to happen to some of these veterans, because I don't feel like a lot of them have a ton of trade value. And are you looking at trading guys, like a Niederreiter or Iafallo or a Nemestikov, veteran guys who could help a team, in the bottom 6? Are we there? Are we there yet here, Huss? Or
well,
are we still?
We're not there because the value of those players are absolute rock bottom. I mean, to be honest, I think the best thing that could happen is for some of those guys to actually get, some positive results, even if the team overall doesn't in January, and at least make those players more viable trade options for other teams that might net the Jets some assets, some of the assets that they've spent over the last couple of years, especially last year at the trade deadline with the second-round picks that went out the door for Brandon Tanev and Luke Schenn. Tanev, of course, who's no longer with the Winnipeg Jets, and Schenn, who spent the last couple of games in the press box. So, I mean, we'll get to this with you all in fan feedback, and we'll also talk about it with Ken Wiebe coming up. But let's hear from Scott Arneal. Right off the bat, he was asked about, the way the game ended and starting Lowry, Velarde, and Pionk in overtime before getting Scheifele and Connor over the boards.
Well, Scheif and them rode them pretty hard right down to the last shift, and it was just more a case that, Lau start with the puck, win the draw. Hopefully that was the scenario. And I've used those two before, and, it was a case of, just hopefully you go out and do the right things and get a chance to get the next group out there. So it didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, people say overtime often is a coin flip. So does how that ended, I guess, take away from what I'm sure you liked a lot of your group in the final half of that game tonight?
Yeah, that was again, another real what's the right adjective here? That first period was ugly. It was really ugly. And we've done it in this building before. I think certainly Utah brings out in the worst. That's a bad start by everybody, and it just got us behind the 8 ball, and then we're chasing the game. I like what happened after that. We got better in the second. Certainly third dominated in the third. But at the end of the day, you can't play play 2 periods in this league and look to have success. And we need that's 35 games for me of inconsistency. Throughout the game themselves, or that might be individual players, and that has to be for the remaining 47. That has to change.
All right, so there's Scott Arneal. Talked about the overtime, and then again the ugly start. I think he was biting his tongue a little bit, and just knowing that they're going on to a break, probably nothing that he said right now is really going to impact what happens during the break. But there'll be some soul searching, I'm sure. Speaking of this break, Arnie was just asked if this break is much needed and coming at a right time for a struggling team.
Yeah, I would say that would probably be correct. I think that get 5 days away, whatever, go do what you have to do with family, enjoy your time. Do some inner soul searching here, that recognize that we're not going to be successful. We're not going to get ourselves back in the race unless each and every individual there takes this up another notch. And certainly we got to start right away with Minnesota when we come out of the break. Clear your mind, clear your head, get yourself ready to go for the second half.
Minnesota Saturday, and Edmonton a week today. awaiting the Winnipeg Jets at Canada Life Center before heading out on the road for, I think, Detroit, Toronto, and the Ottawa Senators. And then it is a ton of hockey at home over the course of the month of January for the Winnipeg Jets. Adam Lowry, as we mentioned, did the first intermission interview and was, borderline disgusted with the way that his team played. And, he stepped up, said that they were playing soft. They got better as the game went on. Here's Lowry on a bit of a rally and tying the game up.
Yeah. That second half of the second period and the third period, that's, the way we need to play to be successful. Obviously, we'd like to get the 2 points. That's on me. So, but I think the effort, the execution was there. That looks like what we expect out of our group.
You say it's on you. It's a team effort. But what would you maybe done differently if you could do that over and over time?
Yeah, I think it just starts leaving my feet. Trying to whack that puck and just get a better angle. He kind of victimized me in the first period. A little different 5-on-5, but. He comes with a head of steam. You get caught flat-footed, and you kind of guess. So, I think just gap up. Know they're highly skilled players, and that one sucks.
All right, so there's the captain. Now he was asked the same question that went to Scott Arneal. Does this break come at a good time for a team that really does need it?
I think first and foremost, enjoy the time with family, loved ones. And just use this break. It's a sprint to the Olympics. It's a busy January. Kind of take some time away, maybe a mental reset, and for some guys, maybe a physical one too. So, I think it's a unique situation. Most teams are playing till the 23rd, where we get 2 extra days. Maybe you can get the rest early. Get back in the gym. Kind of so that coming out of it, we can hit the ground running.
And just last one for me, but yeah, I guess based on where you guys are, that you'll have your work cut out for you when you do get back, right?
Yeah, we've dug ourselves a hole, but there's a belief in this group. When we play the right way, when we execute, we have positive results. I think. It's about finding that consistently, finding that compete every night, start to finish, not when we get down 3-0 or 3-1 in games, but, from the get-go, and that starts with me.
All right, there's the captain of the Winnipeg Jets, Adam Lowry. We'll break it all down with Ken Wiebe a little later on in the program. We are going to talk about maybe some of the players that we'll be spending the second half of the season talking about when we do the draft lottery simulators. And, of course, that's draft-eligible players in the upcoming World Juniors with Shane Malloy. Just before we bring in Shane, folks, many of you are on holidays already. If not, you will be quickly. If you're looking for a great spot to get out with friends and family over the course of the holidays, get on down to Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. Uptown Alley, an incredible spot for tons of fun for kids and adults of all ages, with 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, an incredible arcade, games where you win tickets to exchange for prizes, and amazing food and beverage options as well. With it being the season of giving, might I suggest Uptown Alley gift cards might make a great stocking stuffer as well. And hey, if you are off and you don't have to get up in the morning, don't forget that great bowl and play deal they've got after 9 p.m. every day, where you get 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card for just $20.49 for 5-pin, $22.49 for 10-pin. Find out more for group and birthday party planning at uptownalley.ca, and pop down and see him this holiday season to make the most of your time off with friends and family at Uptown Alley. Folks, as we get into 2026, many of you will be planning on making a move at some point. It's a stressful time, and that's why we suggest you lean on our friends at Rolley's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Rolley's can do it all for you and give you the white glove treatment that their customers have come to expect over their incredible run being Manitoba's trusted moving and storage company. Hit request an estimate over at rollies.com. Put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And our friendly staff at Rolley's will turn it around quickly, give you a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for. For all your moving needs, make it Rolley's transfer in 2026. Happy holidays to all of you from our friends at Rolley's. I know that the smiles haven't been too often on Winnipeg Jets or their fans lately, but if you needed to take care of that smile, head on down to St. Vital Dental Center. Dr. Terry and his amazing staff would love to take care of you and your family, as they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers, with clients from 6 months to 99 plus, and a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They've got it all. Beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's as well, with convenient free parking right behind the building. For all your dental needs or a new home for you and your family, make it St. Vital Dental Center. You can find out more at stvitaldental.ca and make an appointment. Make sure to tell them that the guys from WST sent you. Just before we bring in Shane, I know the hockey team maybe is driving a few people to an extra drink. Well, the holidays are here. You might be heading to your local Manitoba liquor marts. Don't forget the iconic Canadian Club, Canada's original Canadian whiskey, available in a special Blue Bomber label bottle while supplies last. But the big hit this holiday season is the Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale. Limited time only for the holidays. You can pick it up in 4-packs at your local Manitoba liquor marts, as well as your local beer vendor. They'll have it in 473 milliliter cans. Pre-mixed, ready to go, just poured over ice and enjoy. An amazing addition to any holiday gathering. The Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale, available today at liquor marts and beer vendors throughout the city. All right, we'll get back to the plight of the Jets heading into the break, but it does somewhat tie into maybe some increased interest from Jet fans into some of the players we'll be seeing at the World Juniors. Always great to welcome in our pal Shane Malloy from Hockey Prospect Radio as we get ready for the big tourney. Shane, best of the season to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
We always love catching up with you, especially at this time of year and in and around the draft. And I'm sure you've been seeing what's happened over the last 7-8 weeks with the Winnipeg Jets. All of a sudden, this tournament seemingly, I think, has some more importance to a lot of fans here in Winnipeg because of where the Jets are in the standings and the possibility of, well, a lost season, but maybe a top 5 pick.
I would be thoroughly shocked if they're a lottery team. I think they'll push their way back into the playoffs. Considering how deadly that Central Division is, I'm not sure if they can make up the ground to catch Minnesota. They might. They'd have to go on a bit of a tear for the last 40 games. But I don't see why they're not a playoff team in a wild card spot. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking at the top 10 picks for Winnipeg this year. I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, that's the neighborhood we're in right now, and we have to deal in. Like, I'm with you. It was inconceivable at the start of the season that the team would be where they are, but it's really a one-line team. All the moves have sort of blown up on them. A number of veterans are underperforming, and you can have a great top line and an all-world goaltender, but it only takes you so far. And I hope you're right, because it'll make for a fun run for us afterwards. But man, it has been tough sledding for this team coming up. Hey, just overall, Shane, before we kind of dive into the World Juniors, I've heard different things about this draft class coming up. How would you say it is overall? Is it a strong draft? Is it deep? And how high is the talent in that top tier of the 2026 draft?
Well, people like to build narratives about a draft, particularly early, because we're all still in data collection mode. And that's the reality of it. Now, I understand media members have to feed the beast, which are the fans, and the fans want constant updates and they want constant information. But that information is a slow accumulation of data to really understand what a draft class is like. If I have to make a determination right now, I say this is, in terms of quantity, probably an average draft. Around 60 players will play more than 200 games. And quality, I think it's far above average. And I think the reasoning for that is, even though there's not a lot of centers in the top end, there's a lot of defensemen, and that'll make up for it. So it's mostly defensemen and wingers. Probably a handful of centermen that'll play a second line or higher, and that's it. But D-men are such a priority in the NHL, so they'll make it up with the defense core. I think everybody, like, they make up these expectations that are from the evaluators and then turn it into this angst or this half-baked assessment. So that sometimes, Andrew, happens often, and I learned my lesson, so I stopped doing it. I stopped putting lists together until the end. I don't do it. It's just because it's pointless. And all it does is actually anchor you and collect more biases, and it just makes it more difficult at the end for you. And for the fans to understand what's really going on.
No, I appreciate that. The guy we've been talking about since last year has been Gavin McKenna, who of course is now at Penn State. He'll be on Team Canada. I've heard recently that maybe he won't be the number one pick. I mean, if you had to throw, like, what are the chances that anyone other than McKenna is picked at number one?
Keaton Verhoff is the only one. Like, this narrative that has been built around Gavin McKenna, I think it's ill-conceived. I think it's poorly thought out. And it's based on, I think, primarily not understanding the difference between the CHL and college hockey. If you don't actually physically get to go watch those two levels on a consistent basis year after year, you're framing an understanding of what's really going on. So the average age in the CHL is 18 years of age. The average age in college hockey is 21 and a half. Gavin McKenna started the season as a 17-year-old. He just turned 18. So on average, he's playing against young men, not boys at 18, but young men that are 4 years older than him. And he's still a point a game player. And he's not on a stacked team. Like, they're a good team. Penn State's a good team, but they don't have the NHL-laden drafted talent that other programs do, like BU and BC and Michigan and, you know, the more the higher profile teams. So, and Penn State is going to get there. Absolutely. Because they'll throw the money around to make that happen. So it's understanding really specifically for Gavin McKenna, what's the strength of competition, what's the strength of teammates, what's the strength of line mates, and the fact that he was a 17-year-old kid playing against 21 and a half on age-year-old young men. So in some cases, 22 and 23. So everybody needs to pump the brakes a little bit. If your expectations were he was going to put up 100 points, you're crazy. College hockey is way too good for that. The days of, you know, somebody like Korea coming in and ripping up the league like that, that's not going to happen anymore. It's just not. And if he is a point and a half a game by the end of the year, he gets 60 points in 40 games, you should be running up to the stage to go get him.
Another Canadian that made the move from the CHL to the NCAA is Keaton Verhoff, who is pretty much, I believe, a consensus number 2, a blue liner. Tell us about Verhoff, what sort of prospect he is, and what you're looking out of him come the tourney.
Well, you look at him as 6'4", over 200 pounds, right-handed shot, two-way defenseman who potentially could be a number 1 D. When you're looking for a number 1 defenseman, they have to be able to do everything. So you got to be able to play in a power play, which I think he can do. You got to be the number 1 penalty killer, which I think he could do in his prime years. You have to be able to defend against top lines consistently and shut them down and end up logging 25-plus minutes. I think he can do all of those things. So that is the argument of why Verhoff could be number 1. And at the end of the day, if you think they're equal in talent, then you have to take the defenseman, because defensemen are far more valuable than any scoring winger you have out there. So it'd be similar to making the argument trying to either take a Drew Doughty versus a Patrick Kane. Which do you want? Pick your poison. They're both going to be great. But at the end of the day, I'll choose the defenseman, even though I went on a tirade about, you know, defending the narratives against Gavin McKenna. I always have to stick by what my premises are and how I weight value. And so Verhoff could just as easily be the number 1 instead of Gavin McKenna. So I think it's a 2-horse race.
You know, the Canadian team's exciting for a number of reasons, but especially for draft nicks, knowing that the likely 1 and 2 players are playing on it. There's also another player that sort of came from off the radar, I would suggest, maybe at the top of the season, beginning of the season, and played his way on the team, and that's a young Manitoban, Carson Carrolls from Cypress River, Manitoba, is on the team and is looking to be a top 10 pick. Tell us a little bit about him, the season that he's had, and why he seems to be running up the draft boards that have been published so far.
Well, I think when you look at defensemen and how valuable they are and the scarcity of getting a defenseman who could be a number 2 or number 3, depending on how his development plays out. But anytime you got a bigger body who can skate, who can move the puck efficiently, who can kill penalties, who can contribute to secondary offense and log a lot of minutes and play heavy and play with some grit, they're real, like, those are coveted players, which is, I will not be shocked that he's in the top 8. Not be surprised. Could even be higher. So there's a group of defensemen behind Verhoff, and Carl's is one of them, and certainly deserves, I think, to be on the World Junior team because I think he can provide a lot of value. I have a lot of time for this player, and if I'm in that top 8, I'm looking for a player like that. It's just, Andrew, it's so hard to get top 4 defensemen, particularly top 3. And then if you try to trade for one or get one in free agency, they cost you an arm and a leg. So when in doubt, get them early in the draft.
He's a really interesting prospect in that he is, I don't want to say a late bloomer, but he's still not, he's draft eligible. He's on the World Junior team, but he's taken a huge step forward. And, you know, I was reading about him on the weekend. He's from, and listen, I mean, I'm from Manitoba. I lived my whole life here. I'd never heard of Cypress River. It's apparently a town of about 50 people. But he's got that farm background and,
yes.
and that level of, you know,
he's farm tough.
He's farm tough and a special work ethic that I think comes into people from that background. And it certainly seems to be helping his hockey development on the ice.
Well, you realize, like, my grandfather was a hunting guide and outfitter and a horseman in the Rocky Mountains. And when you're around those people, you recognize pretty quickly because they instill it in you. There's no cavalry coming to help you. You either get the job done or everything falls apart. So he is so stoic in that regard for a young man. It's just like, I'm taking care of business because business has to get taken care of. And I'm not relying on my teammates to do my job for me. So I'm going to take control. So I really appreciate, he's a guy that, you know, you can lean on in heavy minutes in the playoffs. He's that style of defenseman. So I understand why he's coveted and he's up high on lists.
Shane, like, those are the 3 players we'll be paying attention to from a Canadian perspective. Are there other hotshot draft eligible players that, you know, from the other countries that people and scouts in particular are going to really be focusing in on over the next couple of weeks?
Well, I know the Winnipeg Jets fans are going to be watching Sweden because they have to, because they have 2 defensemen on that defense core. So Alphonse Fraze and then Sasha Boumedienne. But on Sweden is a Stenberg, who's another highly skilled winger. His brother Otto was drafted by the St. Louis Blues. But this kid is more skilled than his older brother, and he will be knocking on the door, probably be 3rd overall. That would be my guess. If we had to draft today, he would be 3rd overall. But plays in the Swedish Elite League, dual threat, passing, shooting, excellent hockey sense, borderline like elite hockey sense, and has the ability to create time and space for himself and his line mates, but shows good work ethic and some and a high level attention to detail. So if you're going to be that young and playing the Swedish Elite League, your off puck play has to meet a certain standard. And for a young player like that, that's really impressive.
Ivar Stenberg, yeah, he's the guy that I've just kind of kicking around some of the lists. He seems to be almost more of a consensus 3 right behind the 2 guys that we just talked about before. You know, this is an under 20 tournament. So, I mean, the majority of players we're seeing, certainly on the Canadian team and some of the others, are normally drafted. As far as teams go, Canada's got 3 draft eligible players. Is there any other team that, you know, in addition to Stenberg that you just mentioned, that, you know, has some players that might be in a situation that they can really help their draft stock, as they will be getting called likely in the first round?
Well, I think I'd probably have to look at, Chase Reed would be the only one that really jumps out to me for the Americans, young defenseman. He's another one, 6'2", 190 pounds, right-handed shot. And again, in some similar aspects to Carl's, big body, moves the puck really well, stout defensively, execute exceptionally well 5-on-5, whether it's offensively or defensively. And to me, that really matters. So he's the only other one that really sort of jumps out to me that's a top 8 pick potential. And as you mentioned, it's primarily a 19-year-old draft with a lot of drafted players. But every once in a while, there'll be a handful, usually a half a dozen of draft eligibles for us to watch. And I think when it comes to draft eligibles, they generally will never hurt themselves, only help themselves in a tournament. So if they just play average, that's okay. That really doesn't hurt them in the eyes of scouts. But if they jump off the page and start to dominate, it gives them a little bump. You try not to put too much emphasis on the World Juniors. It is a really small tournament, so you don't want to weight it too heavily versus their regular play. But certainly with the stakes that are involved, it does say something about their poise.
Shane, as far as the event goes, I'm just pulling up the odds here. Canada is the favorite.
I agree.
Should they be? And who
Yes.
would be? If you're handicapping this thing, who's next from Canada?
Oh, the Americans are number 2. And then there's a debate whether it's Sweden or Finland. Now, the Czechs will have something to say about that, too, because they find a way. They've become pesky like the Finns. May not have as much talent, but they're big, and they play a really smart, structured game. The Swedes always concern me because they have the talent to win, yet they almost never pull it off. The last time I seen them win was in Calgary, and they won in overtime. And that was Mika Zibanejad had scored that goal. And he's been in the NHL forever. So they just can't find a way when times are tough for them to pull up their bootstraps and win games when it matters. So I'm going to go Canada first, USA second, and I'm going to actually put the Finns at 3. And the Finns kind of remind me of Rocky Balboa, right? He's not a great fighter, but he fights great. And it's the Americans and then the Canadians that are the Apollo Creed, right? They're great fighters. And every once in a while, the guy or the kid or the team that fights great finds a way to hang in the games. And that's what Finland does. And that's why I like Finnish players, is they just keep on you and they keep on you, and they're relentless, and their work ethic, and they're structured. And then they catch you halfway through the third period of a game, and you're tied. And now you're all worried, right? And you're clutching your pearls because the Finns keep coming after you, which is why, they tend to meddle a lot. And the Czechs are not far behind in that respect. They're starting to, cause a lot of problems to the big 3. Now that Russians not in this tournament, hopefully back soon, it would be great. So I'm going to go Canada, Finland, Sweden, Czech. That'll be my top 5.
Focusing on Canada, we talked about the draft eligible players. Who are going to be the leaders? Who are the coaching staff going to really be leaning on in the big moments, as far as you're concerned?
Oh boy. I mean, honestly, I'm going to tell you this, and I haven't said this for quite some time. And I laughed about it with Jason Buchla when we did our preview show on Hockey Prospect Radio. They could legitimately have 4 balanced lines, and the coach could open up the door and go, see that black thing? Go get that and put it in the net. Because they're that good. They legitimately have 4 number 1 lines. And it's really, okay, how do you balance your lines? Who's going to be better on the power play? Who's going to be better on penalty killing? Who do you want for matchups? And really play it out. Like, I could spin a wheel and a name could come up like T. Jaginla. And he could end up being the breakout guy. Or it could be Jet Luchenko. Or it could be Cole Reshny. I mean, it could be any of the 12 or 13 forwards. Porter Martone could go on a run. And because it's that impressive. Luke Greentree, and he's ripping up the OHL. He might come in and score you 10 goals in the tournament. So I'm not kidding. It's actually that balanced. Now, this team in terms of talent isn't the 2005 team that was in North Dakota and ran the gambit. And I was there and it was like an impressive tournament, but they're not far away from that. That tells you how like impressively talented this Canadian team is. I think it's their tournament to lose. In particular, they have 2 returning goalies that they know how to win. They have the best goaltending duo in the tournament, and we haven't said that for a long time.
Well, and goaltending at the junior level can be so hit and miss. I imagine the fact that having 2 guys that have been there before is got to be a huge advantage for Canada.
Massive, because it's the one thing you don't have to worry about. I think lately in Canada, and for whatever reason in Canada in general, we have not developed elite goalies in the last decade. I don't know what's happened. I don't have an answer for it. I'm not a goalie guy. But it's obvious that, we've developed some good goalies and some backup goalies at the NHL level, but we don't have the elite guys. Where's the Flurries? Where's the Prices? Where's, those players? We have Price. We haven't had those guys in a while, where the Americans and the Russians and the Finns and the Swedes have at least somebody, if not 2, that are elite. So hopefully these 2 guys turn into that for Canada for future national tournaments. But in this tournament, they're the best goaltenders. They're the best goaltenders right now. So it's going to be tough to beat. I think it's Canada's tournament to lose. And if they lose, it's because they just didn't play up to their potential as individual talent and as a team collectively.
Shane, Kevin He and Kieran Walton both having great seasons again. Were they at all on the radar for the team, and maybe just for Jet fans that are interested in their progression in the Ontario Hockey League? What can you tell us about those 2 Jets prospects?
Well, having great seasons, but the problem is we're so deep. Mm-hmm. Like, we're only going to take, when you're taking 23 guys and you got, 60 plus CHL teams plus kids playing in college hockey, it's really hard to make this team. Generally, all the players on this team are all first-round picks or going to be first-round picks if you're draft eligible. So that's how ridiculous this group is. Like, I think we have a couple second-round picks. Even Ben Danford's a late first-round pick, right? And he's a tough defenseman. So we have an embarrassment of riches in this country when it comes to that. So I'm curious. I think the coaching staff is excellent. I think I like what they've done. I've been an advocate banging the drum for Hockey Canada to actually have a consistent management staff that's the same staff every year, and they do the U17s, U18s, U20s, so that it is consistent in that respect. And if you want to bring in coaches from the CHL, I understand. I'm even an advocate of having the same coaching staff all year round, so that they do the U17s, U18s, U20s as well. So they've gone in this direction. I think it's the right direction, and you're going to have more consistent results. Plus, if things don't go the way you want or they go well, you have an easier way to reverse engineer, do inversion, rip apart your processes, and continuously improve. So I'm looking forward to this. Is going to be a great tournament. And I did give the Americans a little bit of grief. I said, no, nothing against Minnesota, nothing against Minneapolis, but you could have picked a warmer place for us to go. Could have picked Tampa. You could have picked Vegas. Vegas has 2 beautiful rinks, one downtown and one in Henderson, which is 20 minutes away from the Strip. So I'm hoping that in 2030, they're going to host the World Junior Championships in Vegas, because that would be great.
You know what, Shane, I will say this. I don't know what the heck's going on here. I got to close that on my computer. Some strange beeping starting all of a sudden. But just back to the
that's the Americans getting mad at me for saying Minneapolis is beautiful.
You got to have it close to the border so all the Canadians will come over. And I know there's
we go to all in Vegas in mass.
Yeah, well, there probably would be. I know you'll be there. Have you seen much of He or Walton this year?
Just on film, so I haven't got a chance to get into and see them live yet. So I'm looking forward for that. It's really when you're at this stage when you're ready to graduate the CHL now. One of the things that has changed is because you have the opportunity to go play in college hockey and extend that development window. But if they decide and they're going to go play pro next year in Manitoba, the first thing I look at for both those players is their 5-on-5 play without the puck, because that's the biggest transition to the American Hockey League. American Hockey League is a meat grinder. And look, lots of fans in Winnipeg get a chance to see the Manitoba Moose play, and there's no time and space. The difference between the CHL and the Ontario Hockey League to the American League sometimes is night and day. It's bigger, stronger, faster, more structured, and you have no time and space. So how you perform 5-on-5 matters more. So I want to see what their point production and how they produce points 5-on-5, and then how do they defend 5-on-5, particularly after Christmas, because that's when you generally start to really hit your stride.
Now, you mentioned the Swedish team. Just quick thoughts on, the roles you're expecting for Alphonse Frey, and especially last year's first-rounder, Sasha Boumedienne, who, of course, was playing as a 17-year-old in the NCAA last year. Again,
another guy who kind of got maligned because of that. So both these defensemen, along with the Swedish Defense Corps, they're highly mobile. That's the one thing that really jumped out to me about their roster. So there's defensemen back there that can transport the puck. So if you don't have a really disciplined forecheck, they can burn you badly, because they're not forced just to move the puck. They can transport and carry the puck out. Both these defensemen can do that. And that's the advantage that they have. They're both very good to excellent skaters. So I'm looking to see how they handle the forecheck and how they elude, how evasive they are, and be able to jump into the play. I'm curious to see how they do that at the international level for both of them. And it sort of fits the dynamic of what the Swedish Defense Corps is all about. They got to have a couple big guys, but they have some really excellent skaters.
Shane Malloy's with us, Hockey Prospect Radio. I know you've been all over this. Kind of leads up to one of the most fun week and a half, so certainly tournaments for draftniks of the year. I know you've been doing lots of work. If people want a crash course in this tournament before it gets going, what content is waiting for them, Shane, before we drop the puck?
Well, Jason Buchel and I did a 2-hour draft preview. I almost said draft preview. God, I love the draft. World Junior Championship preview show. So it's already aired. It's going to air again on the 24th, 25th, 26th. It's on Sirius XM NHL Network Radio on Channel 91. If you do miss it, it's fine. It's on demand. So you can click on that and listen to Jason and I banter back and forth about this upcoming World Junior Championships. It's my favorite tournament of the year. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully, as I do my best to be bipartisan and not, openly cheer for Canada, although I'm a Canadian, but I'm hoping that they get back into the winning ways and it particularly, maybe knock the Americans off their perch there for the year. I got lots of American friends, so we chirp each other back and forth, and it's all in good fun.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Will you guys be cranking anything out during the tourney?
Yeah, we'll do another show right before we get into the quarterfinal, semifinal. So we'll record a show on January 1st. So I'm sure both of us will be fine enough to handle that.
Good stuff. Well, hey, Shane, listen, enjoy the trip down to the Twin Cities. Should be a great tournament. Really looking forward to seeing what Team Canada can do, as well as many of these young men that we'll be talking about in a few months, getting ready for the podium and to shake the commissioner's hand at the NHL draft. By the way, have they figured out details for the draft yet this year?
Yeah, it's going to be decentralized again. They just haven't 100% decided on location, but they're going to change up some things so it didn't drag. That first day dragged. And when you're on the air as the only analyst, you have to fill a lot of time. So I'm kind of hoping that, and I had enough content. I got binders of information, but we'll see if they can, push this thing along with a greater efficiency. They were talking about doing the first round and the second round in the same day. They figured they could be able to really get that moving. Then rounds 3 to 7 is the next day. So we'll see what happens.
Are you hearing any rumors of a location?
Well, honestly, I'm hoping it's either because it's decentralized again, it has to be a fun city. So give me Vegas, give me Nashville, give me Montreal. If it's one of those three, Shane will be happy.
Yeah,
because those are fun towns.
Hey, pal, thanks so much for doing this. Looking forward. Hopefully we can grab you after the tourney for your thoughts on everything. But I know you and the gang at Hockey Prospect Radio are going to be all over it. Have a very Merry Christmas, first and foremost. Travel safely and enjoy the World Junior, Shane.
Absolutely. Call me anytime. Happy holidays.
Right on. Thanks so much. You can follow Shane on X at Shane Malloy with the links to the programming. And, of course, Hockey Prospect Radio available at Sirius XM NHL Radio. All right, we're going to get back to the Jets in a minute. Just got an email. A couple other folks looking forward to this poker tourney tonight. Don't forget, 8 p.m., your second chance to qualify for the Costa Rica final. Coming up in a couple weeks, 8 o'clock we get going. We just tweeted out information, so if you need it, go to our social media on our Instagram or our X and Facebook, and you'll have the details on all of that. But yes, top 4 tonight. That's where you want to be. We'll mention that at the end of the program. But before we get to Ken, I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto and wish them all a wonderful holiday season. Greatly appreciated for the support we get from Princess Auto throughout the year. And of course, Princess Auto supporting so many things in Winnipeg as well as in our sports community. Don't need to tell you where the Winnipeg Blue Bombers play. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, but they're founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now coast to coast across the country, but with 3 Manitoba locations: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. That's where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. And might I suggest, we know how loyal Princess Auto customers are. Princess Auto gift card might make a perfect gift for the guy in your circle that just can't get enough of visits over to PA. Shop online and check out everything I've got going on without even leaving your house as well. 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Well, I know that the Derminator and the gang out at Chud's Powersports are fired up for the holidays, but also fired up for the dump of snow we got on a couple of occasions last week. Snowmobile season is here, and Chud's Powersports for 80 years has been the powersports superstore in Manitoba with amazing deals on both Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds and so much more heading into the holiday season. Ice fishing shacks, ATVs and more for the trails, and even things that you might not need for the next couple months, like boats, RVs, and so much more. Chud's has it all with the best and most experienced staff in the business right there in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. Check them out online at chudspowersports.com. Head on out to Gimli and sit down with the Derminator and the best staff around to take care of all of your wildest dreams when it comes to having fun this winter and 12 months a year at Manitoba's Powersports Superstore, Chud's Powersports in Gimli, and online at chudspowersports.com. And just before we bring in Ken, maybe this is an important time for the Jets to take a break a little bit, because this is a team that is in desperate need of a boost coming out of the Christmas break. Speaking of boosts, when it comes to batteries, Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are your local leaders for all things batteries, where you'll be able to shop local, get the best prices in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores. And of course, with Christmas here, you can give the gift of power. Some great deals right now heading into Christmas. $5 to $10 off all Powersport batteries, $10 to $20 off booster packs, a $99 ice fishing flasher combo, 12-foot booster cables under $20, and gift cards as well. 12 months a year, Manitoba Battery's got you covered with the best prices in town and the best service while shopping local. And just in time for Christmas, pop down and power up for Christmas at Manitoba Battery. Also, you can check them out online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's welcome in Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press with more on the plight of the Winnipeg Jets at the Christmas break. Kenny, happy holidays. Best of the season to you. I unfortunately need to inform you we need to talk about the Winnipeg Jets for the next little while. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Andrew. Great to be with you. It 'tis the season of joy, and I understand there's not a lot of joy in Joyland. So I went with the Tamarack hoodie today, Huss. Speaking of things that give me and others joy. So great to be with you. We will dissect this nicely and try not to provide too many lumps of coal here as we get the week started.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've got it's overflowing with coal right now in and around Winnipeg. We almost need
yes,
Claude Noel dressed up in a Santa suit or something to come by and cheer everything up. I mean, listen, Ken, this another miserable road trip. I mean, they salvaged 1 point of a possible 6. look completely outgunned quite often. I mean, I'll just ask you straight up, where, other than the obvious at the bottom of the standings, where is this team right now as we go into the Christmas break?
Well, I think the team is probably going to be at its happiest as they've been because they have a chance to unplug from the mayhem for a few days. And again, a lot of guys are going to be sitting with it and wearing it for a few days, probably as part of the 5-day break. But it's a team that needed to get away from the game, get away from each other, probably. And again, that's not finger pointing season. It's hard. When you go through the type of struggles the Jets have going through right now, 6 wins in 23 games, going to work is not always as fun. Huss. I mean, we talk about no bad days in the NHL, and that's a great mantra to toss around and talk about. And yes, blessed and all of those things, but it doesn't matter what you're making or what profession you're in. When things are going as tough as they are for the Jets right now, it'd be hard to create a fun environment when you talk about expectations and where things are at. So I think the break has come at a good time for them. I mean, it can't possibly get much worse. So again, I think 35 games in, there have been some very confusing elements to this team. I think the ability to go home and, maybe unwind for a couple of days and then know that the task at hand is very challenging when they return. I think there could be some benefits to that, Huss, but yeah, I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. This is not the way that the Jets intended to be after the 35 game mark, whether that's management, coaching, players. Expectations are much higher. They have not come anywhere close to hitting their standard on nearly enough games, and that's led to inconsistency. It's led to a poor record. It's led to, some baffling elements that everyone is trying to get a handle on, quite frankly, Huss. And there's a lot of things that are hard to decipher because there are pockets of that team that you recognize, but there are also pockets that you don't recognize at all. And, Huss, the Jets have been horrible against the Central Division. Last year, they owned the Central Division, right? In terms of head-to-head and also in the division. Anytime that they got a push from the Dallas Stars pulled within 2 points. The Jets would have a head-to-head. They would win that head-to-head. And the next time you looked up, the Stars were 10 points back. Well, that's not happening this year. The Jets are struggling within the division. And quite frankly, Huss, the fact the Jets were not ready to play in a game against a Central Division opponent who they are chasing, a team that has embarrassed them in that building on 2 separate occasions last season, is quite frankly unacceptable. There's no other way around it. You saw the frustration from Scott Arneal, and he had every right to be frustrated.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Ken. I mean, this is, we can talk about the Central Division. I mean, let's face it, they got lapped by the top 3 teams right now. And I mean, we're talking about the San Jose's and Utah. I mean, there's a group of teams outside of the top 7 that are all battling for that last spot, and none of them, frankly, have been particularly good. But the Jets have legitimately been the worst team in the National Hockey League for basically the last 2 months, 7 or 8 weeks. And we'll dive into what's next. But just quickly from the weekend, what were your takeaways? I mean, a relatively close game in Colorado. And then, they do salvage a point after an embarrassing first period. I mean, a period that, I know Scott Arneal wasn't going to go fire and brimstone knowing that this team was just off into the Christmas break after the game last night. But he said, inexcusable. And you just kind of led to it, Ken. In a game that had such importance, to just not really show up until after the first intermission is, another just confounding part of a team that has been so underwhelming in so many different ways.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Huss. We know this is a prideful bunch. And again, some people in the chat and everywhere else may not agree, but we've seen it. Not just last year, but there had been elements of building this foundation and program for 4 seasons, essentially, right? So, and right now, they're not showing those signs often enough. Of course, we know that they're pissed off with where they sit in the standings and how it's been going, but they haven't been able to fix the core issues, Huss. And that's the biggest head scratcher moment of this entire 35 game block to me. There hasn't been enough there's been too many passengers. I mean, it's a terrible way to put it, but Huss, I don't feel badly saying it. I mean, when the captain flat out says during the intermission on the television broadcast that the team was soft, being called soft is about the biggest insult a team can have. And when it's coming from the captain, that's kind of wake up territory, Huss. And yes, the Jets woke up and had a 25-second block where I think they had 2 goals, and they were much better after that. But they still found a way to not get the extra point. And Huss, to your point about Friday night, I mean, if this is game 10 of the season, or even game 13, given 9-3 start, if that's the first meeting against the Colorado Avalanche, and they're not in a situation where they've had 3 regulation losses in 35 games, there are positives you can pull out of that. But the reality is there were 10 minutes where the Avalanche skated the Jets into the ground. They built a big cushion. And again, I don't mean big as in a 5-0 cushion, but if you spot a team like the Avalanche, a 2-0 lead, it's going to be hard to come back against them. If you spot the lead against a team like Utah, they're going to make life difficult on you as a franchise to come back. Jets have been chasing far too many games, Huss. Their attention to detail is nowhere near the standard that they have set for themselves. And if they can't find a way to get back to that standard, again, I'm not saying it's another 6-win and 23 game stretch on the horizon, but becoming a playoff candidate is going to be challenging. And yes, right now they are a playoff candidate, but they're closer to the bottom of the standings than they are to a playoff spot. And Huss, that is something that you nor I nor anyone involved with the Jets organization would have predicted for this time of the year and this Christmas break that has arrived at a situation where there are far too many questions and not enough answers.
The guy that's dealing with that on a day-to-day basis right now is certainly within this group is head coach Scott Arneal. We'll get to Kevin Cheveldayoff and what's on his plate in a minute. If this team comes back as presently constructed after the break, is there any buttons left for Arnie to push? I mean, we've seen anger, we've seen disappointment, we've seen him, kind of lash out at the team. We've seen him kind of try and prop them up. Nothing's worked right now. And I mean, to me, I just do wonder if there's anything else that he can get out of this group.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine that the block of players that have gone into the ice cold, bath or drought or slump can stretch on for another quarter season, Huss. I just don't see it. I understand about regression and age and all of those variables, but I can't imagine Vlad Nemestikov goes another 23 games and has 1 assist. I can't imagine Nino Niederreiter goes 11 more games without a point. I can't imagine Cole Perfetti goes another block of time without being able to find the back of the net. I can't imagine Jonathan Taves goes 19 games with 1 assist. And again, I'm not here to point fingers at individual people. This is very simple, Huss. The Jets don't have nearly enough players going that are not named Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabe Velarde, Morgan Barron, Josh Morrissey. They just have too many guys that are, have gone into a deep funk. And you can understand that, if this was a matter of, a guy getting a ton of chances and that he's been snake bitten and all of those things, then you're like, well, okay, well, then it's kind of bound to turn for some of these guys. But a lot of these guys aren't even getting shots on net right now, Huss, the guys that are in the deep freeze here. So, and again, it's not only about offense, Huss. If you're taking care of your checking responsibilities when you're not scoring, or if you're preventing a bunch of goals, or if you're doing a bunch of things on the penalty kill, those are all things that you can build on as an individual. But when one thing starts bleeding into the other, and Huss, we use the baseball analogy all the time. If you're in an 0 for 20 slump, but you're a Gold Glove defender, and all of a sudden you start kicking the ball around and making errors in the field because you're worried about your hitting, that's when the problems get compounded. And for me, that's what's happening to the Jets. The guys that are fighting it offensively are now either, doing things they don't normally do defensively, or they're taking a silly penalty or a lazy penalty here, or you're in bad defensive posture. You get beat up the ice, you're not as strong on the boards as you need to be, and that puck that should have got out or that puck that should have got deep all of a sudden ends up on the opponent's stick, and then it's a transition play, and all of a sudden it's an odd man rush the other way. You snap your fingers, and it's in the back of the net. So there's just so many things that the Jets need to clean up. Now, they've been better on special teams the last couple games, won the special teams battle. Those are things that they can build on for sure. And yes, us yesterday, 2 third-period goals at 5-on-5. But, like, let's also not forget the Jets almost went an entire week without a 5-on-5 goal before the bang-bang special. That can't happen, Huss. Like, this team was 5th in the NHL in goals scored last year. They're in the bottom third comfortably right now. And that's, quite frankly, baffling. I mean, some people may not be baffled by it, but we talked on this program and others about how deep the Jets forward group was. All of these guys in double digits in goals. They're not even close offensively, and they're not defending well. So that's a big problem.
There was a time when this team was deep. I would argue that they are the exact opposite of deep right now. They're, a team where one line does all the scoring. You've got a couple of guys that show up intermittently, and like obviously Morgan Barron had a nice weekend, a couple goals, but other than that, there's just simply nothing happening. And to be honest, frankly, Ken, it's almost getting worse. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago when the team was in, part of this funk that hasn't changed. And I'd said, we see the lack of production. We know where things are at. How close are they to, waiving a player or two and calling people up? And I know you sort of push back the optics of that. What does that do to guys that you just signed? At what point do they have to just say, guys, sorry, this is professional hockey. You're not getting it done, and we got to find someone else that can.
Yeah, it's a fair commentary, Huss. But again, you can't waive 5 of them. And again, Sean and I had this debate yesterday about and the benching. The only thing the coach has in his hands is the ability to limit someone's ice time or scratch them. Cole Perfetti has had 2 games in a row where he's been under 10 minutes, and one of those games under 9 minutes. Vlad Nemestikov sat for 7.5 minutes yesterday, Huss. 5 shifts in the third. Cole had 3. When players are not producing, the only options are, as you mentioned, you can trade them, you can waive them, you can sit them, or you can hope that they turn things around. Again, it's not a simple case, and we know that sitting out for long periods of time is a tough thing. Again, obviously didn't come close to doing it at the pro level, Huss, but I got lots of experience being a healthy scratch at the Canadian college level. It's not fun. I get it. It's also not easy to come off the pine and make an impact. Colin Miller, not much he could do on the Lawson Crouse goal. Bounces off the end boards, ends up in a stick, high clapper. You're the closest to the puck. People are like, oh, well, why? What's Colin Miller doing? It's tough. Colin Miller is a guy who has had a very good NHL career, but right now that third pairing spot has been rotated with all 3 guys here in the last stretch of time, and it hasn't been working out for any of them. So, Huss, to your point, if you're on the management team or the coaching staff, at what point are you thinking Elias Solomonson needs to get a longer runway? Now, the issue there, Huss, he missed the last 2 games with the Moose with illness. So who knows? I'm not here to say that it's slam dunk. All Elias Solomonson comes out of the break and is in the lineup, but that's your next option, basically, right? So if it's not, but you're also giving Hayden Fleury more than 1 game since November 11th. Colin Miller has barely played, so I think those guys will get a little bit more runway first. But in terms of forwards, we talked about Walker Duehr a lot. Huss now, Samuel Fagemo has been hot, up to 9 goals. He's a younger player the Jets brought in, not younger, but like mid-20s rather than, early 30s or late 20s or whatever else. He's a guy that can score. So at the American League level, he's been a proven scorer. Do you try to give him a shot at some point? It's a possibility for sure. Walker Duehr, I think, would still be on the mix. Jared Anderson-Dolan is a guy we know Scott Arneal likes and has used before. Gustafsson has had an opportunity. He's been playing fairly well for the Moose also. These are all options, but I don't think it's a magic wand waiver. You call up 3 Moose guys, you waive 3 Jets guys, and all of a sudden things are going rosy, Huss. I don't know it's that simple. We've talked about Lambert and Chibrikov. Neither one of them has really gotten on a heater at the American Hockey League level, and Braden Yager needs more time. This is, to me, if the Jets are, I think we're going to see some of those guys. I don't know if we're going to see them on December 27th or on February 14th or whatever the date may be, but I think they're going to give, and I understand people think 35 games is enough and move along and check something else out. I think they're going to be counting on some of their internal candidates to get going. Gus Nyquist, although the first line experiment only lasted one period, he was involved on the screen portion of the goal yesterday in the game against in the game against Utah. So that's something where, since moving to the top power play, he's had a nice assist to Mark Scheifele and involved in a screen. So yeah, that doesn't show up on the score sheet, but did something that works. But at 5-on-5, Hustler's been not a lot there. Still hasn't scored. I get it, but I'm not anticipating a ton of changes, but I won't be surprised if something comes out of the roster freeze. I mean, because we know the Jets are looking. I mean, they were in on Mason Marchment before he got moved to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So what does that mean exactly? We know they're not moving the first round pick this year, Huss, or they shouldn't be without protection, because it may be the top 5 pick that could help provide a boost to the areas we've been discussing here. So again, I don't see the first round pick being in play, but Huss, the other part of that is that the Jets need to kind of recoup assets more than send out another second and a fourth, which they don't have already, in order to get someone who's on an expiring contract. Now, I talked about this with Sean the other day. The reason Marchment is appealing for the Jets was because they'd been interested in him before, and they felt they might have been able to try to extend him if they traded for him, or that would have been the idea. It wouldn't have been that you're trying to get a rental and give up a bunch more draft picks or assets for the future. You'd think that'd be a guy, and I use the Brendan Dillon example. They didn't get him when San Jose moved him to Washington. They got him a couple of years later when Washington had cap trouble. So Marchment's been a guy on their radar. They tried to get him, who knows what happens in the summer, but now they're on to something else. And I mean, we talked about Kiefer Sherwood, but how are you going to get Kiefer Sherwood if you don't have a second and a fourth? I mean, unless you're moving a higher end prospect, which again, very risky unless you're confident you can get him signed to an extension. So
I'm not sure the Jets have the prospects right now to even make those deals. I mean, straight up. So, which brings us to Chevy. Yeah, like I can't imagine it's going to be a very Merry Christmas. I'm sure he'll be obsessing over what is going on with his team right now.
Yeah.
We've talked about the things that you can do in the short term. You can waive a couple guys. You can call some players up. But big picture, we know the difficulty when it comes to big deals. We know, first of all, trade protection of players that he has signed. And I'm not suggesting any of the core players would be thrown out on there, but there are a limited amount of things seemingly that he can do, especially when you talk about that first round pick, which has to be put in a glass case and not touched.
And not in a case emergency glass case. It's got to be in a vault somewhere.
A vault. That's better.
Let's put it in the vault instead of the glass case. Thus to avoid temptation.
So I mean, can you just come back afterwards and hope that these guys get better and start playing better and start? I mean, at what point? Like, I kind of feel like. Let me ask you this, Ken. It was after the Anaheim game, and the Ducks were skating circles around the Jets. This is in mid-November, like right when things sort of started on that bad road trip. And I said, I wonder what Cheveldayoff's thinking right now, just after he was on the road with the team watching that game. And we started to see that the ads that the team had just weren't able to keep up at that level. And it seemed like the team was old, and it seemed like it was slow. And that has just continued for the better part of the last month and a half. Like, I'm not sure that they need any more evidence. So where do you go from here? And honestly, Ken, like, what would salvaging this season look like? Is it getting into an 82-game race to see if you can sneak into that second wild card? Or is it very different when you think about the long-term picture, big picture for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, and those are all questions that have to be asked in corner offices and in discussions that are, quite frankly, probably pretty uncomfortable from people that were having pretty solid conversations last year. This is not a last year situation, but history has shown us over time that some things that looked obvious in real time aren't always working out as easily as we thought. Like, let's use 2 years ago as a great example. Jets went on a crazy heater at the end of the year. They blew the doors off the Colorado Avalanche, then promptly lost the series in 5, right? And didn't really sniff it after game 1. So again, I'm not here to say that if the Jets get in and they face Colorado, they can, flip the table over and here you go, this is what's happening. But there is a long part of the season left. We saw it in recent memory with the St. Louis Blues. Now, do the Jets have some similar qualities to that St. Louis Blues team? Yes, but things would have to change dramatically. But what I do need to mention, Huss, is that after Doug Armstrong threatened to trade all of his players who were underperforming that December, they didn't actually make any trades or trade deadline ads, and then that team somehow, stuffed it all in a magic potion and found a way to raise the championship banner. Again, I'm not saying that's here for the Jets. I do anticipate some changes to be made. I don't know if that's internal candidates or if that's using a broader view, as you mentioned, Huss, when you start moving on from players that are in their early 30s that aren't part of the core group or the, core 4 or 5, whatever number you want to use. And they're complementary players who need to be moved out either for draft picks or to give an opportunity to some of those other guys, whether it's a younger player or, recouping some draft capital, with the idea that knowing that you're going to have to get younger and faster in order to compete. Because us, like the team that we're going to see roll into town on Saturday night, a team that has struggled in the playoffs, even harder than the Jets have. They just got one of the top 5-10 players in the NHL, and they're probably planning on trying to sign him for 8 more years. So we know Colorado's not going anywhere. Dallas isn't going anywhere. Minnesota now all of a sudden has gone from you're not sure about them to, they've signed Kaprizov and they've traded for Hughes. So they're also not going anywhere. Teams like Chicago are getting better, even though they have an injury they're dealing with. Utah is getting better. Yeah, I mean, the long view is not a rosy one right now. And you're right, Kevin Cheveldayoff, much like after 2015 when the Jets got swept by Anaheim, it was an entertaining series, but the Jets made the revelation that, just getting close and being a wild card team wasn't good enough, and they pivoted essentially 4 years into the 5-year plan. So I don't see scorched earth here, and neither do you. We know they're committed to the core and being a competitive team, but right now they're not a competitive team. So, I don't think they're openly going to be thinking if you get a top 5 pick and take a step back, you're automatically going to be able to reload in the fall. But again, this is simple, Huss. If the players don't play better in the next, whatever it is, it's been 2 months of evidence, as you mentioned. If it doesn't get better quickly coming out of the break, I think you're going to see the Jets think about moving some of those veteran players who are either on expiring contracts or have a year left on those deals because they know they're going to have to change the composition. And to your point, even though the Moose are having a very solid AHL season, there are a few guys that are close to knocking on the door, but I don't think there are enough guys that can jump in and be impact players immediately that will immediately change your fortunes to the degree that we've seen, the Frank Nazars and guys like that coming up from Chicago. So that means you're going to have to change the composition of the roster, whether that's in free agency or trade. That's what Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to have to decide. So, I mean, there's some big time decisions on the horizon. And before we would have thought they would have considered some rentals, but you need guys that are kind of in their mid-20s that have term or team control. The issue is probably right now with what you're dealing in terms of assets, you're either trading a distressed asset to acquire a distressed asset who may need a change of scenery, but you're banking on that player coming in and getting an opportunity to sort of turn things around, which would be what other teams are looking at in terms of a guy like Brad Lambert if they make a move for him.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, I kind of see the rest of this season. Listen, I mean, if they haven't sort of accepted where they're at right now, I'm sure that would happen relatively quickly through the month of January if, there hasn't been a complete 180, which based on what we've seen so far through 35 games, I don't think is coming. And then, I mean, to me, the second half of the season should be fine, create some holes in the lineup from guys that have been doing nothing and see what you have amongst, the players that are in with the Moose. Give some guys opportunities to come up. And if nothing else, just compete for spots in the roster. Know that, hey, you've got an opportunity to come up for some games. Show that you belong. Show that you can make a difference. And then maybe that can be a positive for the team going forward. But part of that is, creating some holes in the lineup, which brings me to this. And listen, it sucks to have to ask this question because I think everyone was so excited about Jonathan Taves returning and doing it here. But it's been tough to watch for the last 20 games. What do you think Jonathan's thinking over the course of this holiday break about this comeback? And do you think that he finishes the season as a Winnipeg Jet, like playing on the active roster?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this before, and I don't see a scenario where Jonathan decides that this isn't going well and I'm going to hang up the blades mid-season. That's just not the way that he's wired. I think that there's tons of frustration with how it's been going from him. And I don't mean getting demoted to the fourth line, because I think that right now he knows that he's going to kind of earn his way back into playing more. For sure, he's been hard on himself. He wants it to be going better, but I don't see him shutting it down. That's not the way that he's wired. He's overcome a lot of things in his life. It took him an incredible amount of effort just to get back playing us. And I think that even though it's not going well for the team or often for himself individually, I think that he values being an NHL player, and he's going to do everything in his power to try to get his game turned around. I think there have been some signs of life on that front of late, even though it hasn't translated into offensive opportunities or directly to goals. But yeah, I mean, I think that Jonathan is a guy who came back for a reason. That reason is not going to be shut down after 35 games or 41 or whatever the number is before 82. In terms of whether he finishes the year, Huss, I mean, that could depend on a bunch of things. How he plays coming out of the break. I think he'll benefit from the break, much like I think Cole Perfetti will benefit from the break for different reasons, injury related versus, coming back. I think that he's going to try to do his best to be an impact player or have an impact, whether that's on the fourth line or somewhere else. But again, in terms of whether he finishes the season, right now, I don't know that a contender would say, for surely that is something that they'd be looking to trade for. We know there's other teams that have been interested, including the Colorado Avalanche, or one of those teams. So, I mean, could Colorado want to see if Jonathan, whether it's as a fourth line center to start or even as an extra forward? It's possible, but Jonathan would be in control of that. And again, I think that he would have to elevate his game in the next month and a half or 6 weeks or 8 weeks in order for another team to say, hey, this guy's a winner. I want him in my organization. Ultimately, the Jets wanted him for his winning qualities, and I think the Jets are confident that they will come out of the break and do find a way to turn it around. I mean, Adam Lowry said it perfectly yesterday, Huss. It's a sprint to the Olympic break now, and if the Jets don't make any headway, then I think that's when you're going to get closer to seeing some of those. And again, I understand some folks want it decided before February 4th. I think they're going to give this team another 3 to 5 weeks to get things sorted out. And, Taves will be part of that. But again, I understand some folks are worried about the $550,000 bonuses for all the games played marks. I don't think the Jets are worried about that. But again, to your point, at some point, if the Jets are looking at, making room for other players, there could be a scenario where Jonathan has to, get scratched once in a while if his play hasn't had a significant uptick.
Well, the reason I asked this, and I mean, I don't know, it'd be fascinating to pump some true serum. And I don't think if Jonathan Taves knew that this is the way that it was going to go, I'm not sure that he comes back. I really believe that he thought that he was coming back because he could still be an impact player.
For sure.
And I mean, unfortunately, he's making an impact, but in the wrong way right now. And I mean, from a coaching staff and management, when you look at what is ailing the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, listen, there was a lot put into him, and obviously it was a whiff. I mean, certainly based on what we've seen so far through this period of time. And it's affected a number of levels. But I mean, on a personal level, I'm not sure. I have no idea. And I asked the question, is this something, is this what he signed up for? Is he having second thoughts about it? And then on the other side of things, you can love a guy and want him to be part of your organization and all that, but at a certain point, when the results are the results, it's tough to keep running it out and doing the same thing over and over again. And I would imagine there's probably some soul searching on both sides right now at this break.
Yeah, I mean, I know where you're coming from. And again, I don't think that, Jonathan knew there were going to be some challenges, and so did you and I, and so did Scott Arneal, so did Kevin Cheveldayoff. And, the strange part is that, again, this is not revisionist history here, but if Adam Lowry doesn't miss the start of the year, Jonathan Taves isn't necessarily starting out playing second line minutes. And maybe there's some benefits to playing fourth line minutes at the start of the comeback attempt. Now, I get it. Higher volume usually means better results. I get that too. But right now they are where they are. Jonathan needs to find a way to impact the game. I mean, he's found a way to impact the game his entire life. Now, we knew there was no roadmap or, book to say, hey, on page by day 60, you should be at this point. I mean, he's coming back from something no one's ever come back from before. So the fact that it's been more challenging than maybe most anticipated shouldn't be a huge surprise. But Huss, I mean, to your point, yeah, I mean, Brent Seabrook flat out told me Jonathan wasn't coming back to be average. And right now he's not at an average level compared to what he's performed at throughout the course of his career. So that would be difficult to come to terms with for sure. But just saying peace out is not the way that Jonathan is going to handle this, at least not the person that I've covered throughout the course of his lifetime for 2 decades here. I think he's going to try to battle through it. And, if it doesn't get any better, then an assessment's going to have to be made in terms of ice time and whether he's in the lineup. But I think it gets better for Jonathan Taves before it gets worse, is my personal view. But again, it's incumbent upon him to find ways to make those impacts on the ice. Otherwise, like you said, tough decisions are going to have to be made.
Yeah. Listen, another guy that's had a real tough run lately is a guy that a lot was expected of, and that's Cole Perfetti. He was on his keister for the entire third period against the Colorado Avalanche, spent extended time on the bench as well. What's missing from Perfetti's game in your mind right now, and what needs to happen to get him going?
Yeah, it's speed and skating. I mean, and Cole's never been a burner, Huss, but the speed lost coming off the high ankle sprain is noticeable. He's not getting to the spots that he was getting to last year. Again, I don't think it's a lack of effort. And some people are pointing to the Necas goal, Huss. I mean, yes, he got beat up the ice despite starting in the proper defensive posturing position above the puck. But Marty Necas is a faster skater than Cole Perfetti. It wasn't that Perfetti wasn't trying to catch him. He just couldn't catch him. So, I mean, that play is sort of a, snapshot of how it's been going for him. He did the right thing. He anticipated the puck going to him. He did his best to stay in the frame, but he couldn't catch him. And not only couldn't he catch him, then he had to watch it go bar down. So offensively, Cole's not generating as much. Yes, we know the loss of Nikolai Ehlers. We've been talking about it for 3 months. I mean, this is a guy who drives play. He pushes defensemen back. Cole's such a smart player. He could get to spots that opened up, partly because of the speed of Ehlers. But Cole's a great passer, Huss, but he's also a shooter, and he hasn't been getting enough shots and opportunities off. We know the prick Fetty, the idea that he was getting involved a little bit more physically and, showing that kind of, irritant side of his game last year. It's tougher to do that when you're not skating at the level you're used to skating at. He's not winning as many board battles. But again, it's not from lack of effort. He doesn't have a lot of push off, and there's not a lot of explosiveness based on the nature of the injury. So I don't think it's solved in 5 days, but the 5 days will help. But Huss, I mean, quite frankly, I'm not saying it's going to take until the Olympic break, but that's the time, and that's the type of length of break that can help a high ankle sprain. But unfortunately for the Jets, they don't have that long to wait for Ken to get it going.
If it's only because he's not able to do things at this, why is he playing, or why is he being benched? Like what do you think the message from Scott Arneal to Cole was with the benching and the ice time on the weekend?
Well, again, he was also on the ice for not just the Necas goal. He was on the ice for the first goal against also. And again, I'm not saying it's directly his fault, but I mean, if you're not scoring or producing offense, and yes, Cole had a recent block Huss where he had an assist in 3 of his 4 games, but in the 2 games since, he's been benched twice. So the message is you hope that it's going to turn around, but when it's not turning around and there's a 5-day break coming, I think the message is I don't think Scott Arneal was feeling like Cole would give them an opportunity to rally in that game. And again, that's not Cole directly, but right now he felt he had other options that were available to him. He cut the bench down and he wasn't going. Same as Nemestikov. I mean, I don't think it's that doesn't care. Of course he cares. It's not that the effort isn't there, but sometimes you get a little bit of paralysis by analysis. And, Perfetti's a guy who's incredibly hard on himself, Huss. So he was starting to feel encouraged about where his game was at. And then the game took another step kind of backwards, I think. So Cole is going to benefit from the 5-day break. But again, it's not going to, 5 days isn't enough to, magically make the ankle feel better and get your skating. And again, I'm not trying to talk down to people, but I don't think that people understand that when how hard you have to work in order to gain a quarter step or a half step in the course of your summer training. And then what a high ankle injury or high ankle sprain can do to a player in terms of giving you a setback. We saw it with Kevin Bieksa, when he came to the Moose that year after suffering the high ankle sprain in the NHL. I think it was during the lockout. It took him a long time to get back going, and it's just a tough thing to come back from. The mind is willing, but the body isn't able. And Huss, I get it. Then you have to think, well, if the body's not able, then maybe you got to go back on IR. But I have to think that, Cole Perfetti is barely 8 months removed from scoring the biggest goal of his life and being an impact player at the most important time of the year. So, logically you'd be thinking a player of a different skill set or doesn't have his high-end hockey intelligence or scoring ability isn't a better option. But that's another thing that the Jets have been kind of trying to find the balance of, us, and they haven't found the sweet spot because too many other guys weren't going.
Yeah, I just kind of find, it's one thing to move a guy down the lineup and, maybe keep the ice time down. It's another thing to say, get on the bench and you're not moving for the third period. That's a far more, to me at least, that's a far more direct message that,
but it's happened one time
that you're doing no, I'm just saying, like, this is where we're at right now, coming out of the weekend and into the break. And it's hard to imagine results coming if you don't get more from, I could go down the list. I don't know if you have enough time for all the
guys
got lots
that they
of company
need more from.
Huss,
we know
he's a more important player.
Scott Arneal doesn't want to be benching Cole Perfetti. Like, we've talked about this for months. The Jets need Cole Perfetti to be a primary contributor. He's not a secondary scorer right now in terms of what he's been producing. So right now they'd be happy with the secondary scoring version of him, but it just hasn't been happening. And part of the other issue, Jets have been searching for the optimal lines, and they're not close to finding them. So that's another problem in terms of where things are at for a number of players. We just talked about Taves. Jets were expecting Taves, Nyquist, and Perfetti to essentially be the second line unit. And right now, none of those three guys are performing at a high enough level. And two of them are on the fourth line, and the other one has been benched twice in the third period of the last two games. So, that's a big problem.
Yeah. At a certain point, to use a baking analogy, you can tweak the amount of different ingredients, but if some of the ingredients have gone bad, the meal's probably not going to work. And unfortunately, that's what's being served right now. And I'm not sure the guy that's, setting the meal up to use in Scott Arneal has a lot of options right now. And that's why, it would be interesting to hear some of these conversations that are happening behind the scenes, because this is probably unfathomable for most of the people that, were involved in building this team and putting it together. Going into game one, considering what happened last year and the playoffs and the excitement, but also expectations for this team, to be where they are right now, Ken, and as a season just feels like it's slipping away.
Yeah, and there's no more helpless feeling as a coach when you look down the bench and you're not sure who you want to throw over the boards next. Last year, it was a joyous time to be a coach because you could count on all four lines, winning your minutes and sometimes dominating those minutes. Right now, they don't have anyone dominating the minutes. They have a line that has been highly productive, but they're only winning their minutes by a certain amount. And then when you're playing them more, now they're not at peak, whatever, again, we know they're in peak fitness, but it's a lot easier to get scored against when you're playing 25 minutes than when you're playing 8 minutes. So people that are here are saying, oh, well, break up the top line, they're not producing at the same level. Well, That's because no one is producing. So they have the best chance to produce. So they're playing more, but sometimes that's led to other results because now all of a sudden you're, stuck out there in a longer shift or, you're not as crisp as you have been. So
you're not kidding about playing more. I mean, Scheifele and Connor both over 23 minutes last night. And Gabe Vilardi had 18. Other than that, no forward over 14 minutes. So, I mean, that's a lot on those guys' shoulders right now. You do wonder, of those guys that have committed and signed long-term that are the key players, I mean, what they must be thinking right now. Because the frustrating thing is you actually are getting really productive seasons from Connor, from Scheifele, from Vilardi. Josh Morrissey's been great. Connor Hellebuck is Connor Hellebuck. Yeah. But the drop-off beyond that is just so, there's nothing there right now for the most part. And obviously Morgan Barron's had some games and not absolutely nothing, but it's it is quite the predicament the team finds them in. Well, the Minnesota Wild are coming up on Saturday, and maybe they'll be leaking gravy on that's all you can hope. I imagine it's not going to be the best of breaks, but hopefully the team can rally after this and get back to playing just, competitive against these top teams and see if some wins can come on. And Kenny, have a great holiday season. Best to Stace and the family. I hope you have a great few days off and be back at it on the rink on the weekend and see what happens coming out of Christmas.
Yeah, Huss, Merry Christmas to you and yours, and Happy Holidays to all the fine folks here. And on the way out, shout out Tim Campbell in the class of 2020. Will be inducted in 26 for the Manitoba Golf Hall of Fame and Museum inductees. So stick taps and golf claps to our good friend Tim Campbell there.
Beautiful. That is great to hear. You have a good one, man. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet. You too, Huss. Take care, my friend.
All right, good stuff with Ken. Appreciate him jumping on as always, and wish him and Rennie. We'll see what Ren's up to over these next couple days. A very, very happy holidays. Guys had a great show last night. Check it out if you didn't see it. A little bit of a break for a couple days on the Clean Line lines, but when we are back with pucks on Saturday, of course, we'll be posting them as we do for all Jet game days, Saturday and Monday. Next Jets action. But, of course, our friends at Clean Line, great supporters of ours, and now one of the leading plumbing, heating, and electrical companies for both commercial and residential services in town. Your local leader for over 40 years and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets with 24-hour emergency services, even throughout the holidays as well. Much like Adam Lowry's got the back of his teammates, Clean Line has the backs of Winnipeggers and Manitobans. Go to cleanline.ca for information on all of their services. And that's where you can find 24-hour emergency service for plumbing, heating, and electrical as well from our great partners over at Clean Line and proud sponsors of your Winnipeg Jets as well. We got a fun Monday nighter. We'll hit the NFL for a few minutes before the end of the program. Phil Rivers is back starting on Monday night. What year is it? It's 2025, believe it or not, going up against Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, who are still very much in the mix for the NFC West title after Seattle's win on Wednesday. BP will be rocking, the BP lounges will be rocking throughout the city. Of course, you can get out there and don't forget to grab those gift cards as well in time for Christmas. 10% bonus or $10 bonus card for every $50 purchase of gift cards at your local Boston Pizza. And should be a fun one tonight, just after 7 o'clock. Niners and Colts with a lot to be determined on the playoffs. As I say, we'll touch that later on. Big happy holidays to all of our friends at Boston Pizza for their great support throughout the year. Hey, if you're not done your Christmas shopping, gang, get on down to Royal Sports before Santa makes his way to Winnipeg. Of course, when it comes to sports fans and athletes, there is simply no better place than Royal Sports to take care of all of your Christmas shopping. Whether it's the best in fan gear, the biggest selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise and jerseys, customized with your favorite player's name and number, sweaters, hoodies, scarves, toques, you name it. If it's Jets, Royal Sports has it. Not to mention great jerseys and more from the other 31 teams in the NHL, Blue Jays in Major League Baseball, Raptors in NBA, all NFL teams represented, Bomber gear in the CFL, and the best in hockey, including great deals up to 50% off hockey sticks just in time for Christmas. While you're at it, make sure to check out all the great stuff on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side, including their amazing Yeti section, perfect for gift giving on the 25th. Royal Sports has it all, 750 Pembina Highway, and don't forget to check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. We got to talk about some big Bomber coaching news. But first up, let's give a big holiday cheers and happy holidays to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, we got to dole out some thanks, too. Some very nice holiday cheer being thrown around in the chat today. A little super chat from our pal T. Kona Pauly. Seen enough. Play some youth. Free fall top 5 pick. Hope for a Verhoff. Fastest way to improve roster and still maintain this apparent cup window. Merry Christmas to all. Merry Christmas to you, T. Kona Pauly. And how about T. Kona Pauly's guy, Tyrell Bower again? Another 5-star tilt at Canada Life Center on the weekend for the Manitoba Moose. Tough guy defenseman. He is absolutely something to behold. Coachy 51, Merry Christmas to all at WST. Great job. Love the Jets coverage. Appreciate you, Coachy. Thank you very much. And also wanted to thank, as I get down here, I believe it was Kim Sawchuk. Kim, thank you so much. Kim says, happy holidays, WST. Thanks for helping us through these dark hockey days. May 2026 be merrier for us all. Go Jets. Great stuff and happy holidays to all of you. We will be here tomorrow. We will have a big show tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to tell some more, some great tales of the poker game tonight, which hopefully some of you will jump on with us. Had a great first qualifier for the Costa Rica tourney on the 9th. Tonight, 8 p.m., and then Wednesday, January 7th, your other two opportunities tonight. The top 4 players will get tickets to the final on January 12th. And the winner of that tourney will be coming to Costa Rica on January 26th for the Costa Rica Poker Festival. So join us tonight. It should be fun. We will get to the cool bet lines coming up in a few minutes. But we got to get to a why not question of the day and hear a little fan feedback as well from folks. Because, Remis, we've got clarity on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coaching staff for the year, and it is official. We knew Tommy Condell had been named the new club's offensive coordinator, but we wondered what that meant for Jason Hogan. Well, Jason Hogan is going to return to the team as the club's running backs coach, a role he previously held from 22 to 24. And how about Jake Thomas hanging up the pads but staying along as the defensive line coach for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
Yeah, it was Arash Madani last week reporting Tommy Condell to the OC, and we were wondering what was going to happen with Jason Hogan. And Brady Oliveira mentioned at the end of the year that, you know, they had worked so well together during his MOP season, but didn't really have the opportunity to work that closely with him last year. They'll have plenty of opportunity to do that. We'll see how this new offense looks under Tommy Condell and how Brady Oliveira was going to be involved. There was certainly some criticism of his lack of involvement at times. And Jake Thomas, we were wondering, is he going to come back this year? You know, been a veteran with the Blue Bombers for a long time. And yes, he's now the team's defensive line coach, replacing Daryl Paterson, who's retiring. 2T Paterson has.
Yes, two T's, not the 1T of my vintage.
Not the 1T.
You know, we'll have to get Jake on. That's really cool. I mean, he has been such a big part of this team for so many years. Actually makes a lot of sense for a guy like that to bring, his incredible experience and knowledge. and continue after his playing career. So congratulations to Jake. And here's the why not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. How do you think things will work with Hogan staying on the staff and moving back to the running back position? I'm sure some people will think, hey, this is what worked before with Brady Oliveira being very happy. Make that work. And obviously, Zach's going to be a happy guy with his guy, Tommy Condell. And it seemed like there was a bit of a disconnect between the quarterback and the OC last year in particular, but a number of players, as we talked with Jeff Hamilton last week. So let us know in the chat what you think about the coaching changes for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Mike O'Shea spoke earlier today. Here's what the head coach had to say. Here's Mike on why the change at OC for 2026.
We needed to. We weren't good enough last year for a variety of reasons, and we needed to seek someone with, more experience.
That's the key addition for Tommy is the experience.
It's one of. Obviously, he's, he was with Zach early in Zach's formative years, and they were very productive together, and so that would be a big part of it. And he does have a tremendous amount of experience, not just as an OC, but coaching and in other leagues, and so all those different experiences add up to a guy who's going to be unflappable.
All right, so there's the coach on the change at OC with Tommy Condell coming in. Mike was also asked on how Jason Hogan handled the demotion back to his previous position of running backs coach.
Yeah, obviously disappointed. He certainly wanted to have more production, in his first year as an OC. So he's disappointed in how it's turned out. But I think, if you were to ask him, he's probably more disappointed for the team, not for him personally, And then obviously returning back as a running back coach is, that's something that I think he's thankful for. He's been in that position before. He knows the room. I think he's going to be excited for that. But also from my standpoint, he's a really good coach. And, I think the timing was just, maybe a little too soon for him. And then, most importantly, I don't know that I did a good enough job. In fact, I know I didn't do a good enough job supporting him and making sure, I was giving him what he needed. But it's certainly for a guy to take a step back and continue with the same team. That's a rarity. So, I like that about his character. He's certainly able to drop his ego and say, yeah, this is a job I want.
All right, so there's coach on Jason Hogan and the offense. One other clip from O'Shea, and this is on the addition to the coaching staff of longtime stalwart on the defensive line, Jake Thomas.
Yeah, love the guy. Can sit here right now and picture him hoisting the cup in 2019. Extremely smart, passionate, good leader. A guy that just loved being around. There was a time where he came late because of a contract issue. He came late to training camp by I don't know how many days, not much. But the whole practice stopped and everybody went nuts that he walked onto the field. I think that right there speaks volumes on what everybody thinks about him. Not just from the player's perspective, but in the entire organization.
Did he express interest getting into coaching, or is this kind of more your idea, or just how did this kind of come together? And what do you think he can add as a defensive line coach?
Well, once again, he's extremely intelligent. He's always been a guy who studies the game well. communicates well to his teammates. So you expect that to continue. In terms of, whose idea was it? I think Jake will always want to stay in football. I think this gives him an opportunity to see what it's like in this on this side of it. I believe the future for Jake is going to be pretty good. He'll probably end up being a GM. So he can do a lot. He's the type of guy that he could probably do whatever he wants.
All right, so there's a little bit of Coach O'Shea from the conference call earlier today. Jason Hogan moving to running backs coach, Jake Thomas on the defensive line handling those coaching duties, and Tommy Condell reunites with Zach Caleros as the new offensive coordinator for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Let's get to some fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. No added fees at fansfirst.ca. Still lots going on from our Jets conversation with Ken. James Robertson, Arneal would be better off playing Duck, Duck, Goose to choose who goes over the boards. Mr. Meowcat, Chevy said youth would come up for injured players. They don't really have that right now. You should come up for ineffective players, says Palmer Lane 8924. And let's see. The team is bottom 3 this season. Arneal has done endless line shuffling outside of 55-81. Why not try it out? You want this team to keep on losing. And then in brackets, which they should, it's for the better. Seems like a lot of fans have pretty much have come to terms with where the team is at right now and are thinking somewhat realistic for the rest of the year. I'm certainly there with many of you. And T. Conopoli popped in again, another super chat. Thanks, Paulie. We should also mention Tyrell Bower netted one this weekend. And then free TB2. I always think it's Tom Brady and then realize, no, it's Tyrell Bower. Remo, did you see that scrap from the game on the weekend?
Man, Tyrell Bower, like his highlight reel of scraps, like the time that it goes. I mean, the average length has got to be like a record. Like, I don't know how he does. And these guys aren't just like swinging and missing, like some major haymakers thrown. The guy's a machine.
It hurts just to watch those sometimes. I mean, and you know what? I have had this, and I'm sure this conversation's popped out. Certainly T. Kona with some of his buddies would have been saying it. If the team's not going to be able to win, if we're not going to be faster than the other teams, if we're not going to be able to score more than the other teams, maybe we just go and be tougher than the other teams. Tell you what, I think the fans could get behind that for a year, that if the team's not going to be winning quite a bit, I've totally come around to a Tyrell Bower call up at some point this season. I would love to see what he could do. And again, is he going to help it's going to turn things around, going to turn into a play driving defense? Well, probably not. But at this point, with how miserable the last few weeks have been, I'll take a nuclear option in the lineup. I could take a few changes to the lineup as well, and we'll get to some more of that tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow will be the Winnipeg Sports Talk Christmas wish list. Well, that's what we'll do for the why not question of the day. We'll throw what you'd like to see for the Jets for Christmas, and we'll compile those for fan feedback tomorrow for fansfirst.ca. Of course, fans first, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. Remo, we hit the Bombers. We should hit the NFL. Well, actually, speaking of fighting, did you watch the big Jake Paul fight on the weekend?
Look, I'm a sucker. I don't know why, but I'm proud to say I watch every Jake Paul fight. Like that. I don't know if that's sad or it's like a badge of honor. Jake Paul's fighting. I'm in. I did watch the fight. Who's that guy he fought? The first time he ever fought a real boxer, and it was a minus 900 favorite. So was this going to be the time that we saw Jake Paul get what everyone's been waiting for him to get his face punched in? And it took a while. They took their time. The answer was yes. He took some heavy shots and ended up with a broken jaw. So finally, it took a while, but they finished the story, and we saw Jake Paul get a beating. So yes, I watched.
Broke his jaw. I saw Logan in the hospital with him afterwards saying, this guy's a warrior. I mean, he fought like a former heavyweight champion of the world. Like I will give him credit for that. And that was real. If you saw his face get caved in by that right that ended up ending the fight, you realize that they were playing for keeps. I think Joshua sort of played with him for a little while and then finally ended it. But they're both making probably $20 million. This is what I don't understand. Where does all the money come for this fight? Because it was on Netflix, right? Like, I mean, like I watched some of it just on my phone. I mean, I guess they do a piece of subscriptions or whatever, but I don't know how they're getting these purses of like $40, $50 million for these guys when it's not a pay-per-view.
I guess there's gate for sure for a thing, and maybe Netflix just has the deal where they just pay money. I mean, everyone's paying Netflix however much a month. But yeah, it's big money, and I mean, credit to Jake Paul. He's done a great job promoting these. He got people to watch. And I think they use it as a springboard to promote other fights as well. Joshua wants to fight with Tyson Fury. Now they're promoting, they like Dave Portnoy front row there, promoting Barstool on Netflix. Like they just use it to promote other stuff. So, I mean, he's a great promoter, Jake Paul. Here, I watched it, and, you know, he kind of had to lose this one, so we watch the next one. So, yeah, they made a ton of money. Made a ton of money on this. So, like, why not do it? So good for him for recognizing, hey, I suckered everyone into watching Mike Tyson and my fight. That was a complete joke. I need to go take one for the team, give the people what they want. So now we can watch the redemption fight. He said he's taking 6 months off. I'm sure he'll have some other bogus fight that's part professional wrestling, part sporting competition, and I'll probably watch it again. I don't know, what else was I doing? The Jets game ended, and I threw on Jake Paul. It was like perfect timing.
I did the same thing. I'm not going to lie. James Robinson Remis single-handedly keeping Jake Paul in business. Bardo said, I heard 88 million. Was that fake? And Joel Kevinson said he made 92 million. So again, I don't understand the finances of these Netflix fights, but a lot of people tuned in. That is for sure. But the best fight was Tyrell Bower on the weekend.
Well,
did you see the Lacrosse goalie fight? I tweeted that out. That's ridiculous. And, you know, well, I'll ask Pat this because, of course, I was wishing that Pat was doing that game on TSN, but he was in Oshawa. That was one of the other games. The weirdest thing about that goalie lacrosse fight is it wasn't like it was a brawl and everyone else was fighting. It was like everyone else was just standing around there. Like, how the hell does that happen? How does a lacrosse goalie fight start?
Yeah, well, this was crazy because I guess they wear such big equipment you can't really punch. So they had to take off their massive pads and like really squared off in a legit. It looked like a street fight here. Like that's pretty.
Yeah. Like I would expect that to be happening in the old days at like 2:30 in the parking lot outside Monty's with the Knob.
Yeah, I don't know. I think no one got hurt. Like it's not like hockey fights. I always think are kind of lame because guys just punch each other in the helmet with a bare hand or punch them in a visor. Like it seems dumb, but this was like a real fight. So.
The younger, more athletic goalie on the left ended up getting the win. A couple of heavy lefts at the end. If you want to watch it, I got it up on my. I just tweeted it out with the laughing emoji, going, "Come on!" Like, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. Was this like an afternoon fight with? I was troubled when I took my son to a Moose game. Like Tyrell Bower at one of those marathon fights. I guess he was too busy eating pizza and ice cream, so he really didn't even notice there was a fight going on. But I always want. Now that I'm a parent, I'm like, how do I explain this to my kids. When you're
tough.
Like a lot of kids go to these Moose games, and Tyrell Bower is having like crazy scraps.
The biggest fights in all of the sport is basically when he gets going. Tyson D. Yeah, I mean, he of course also from the People's Republic of Transcona. I miss going to the bar at 2 a.m. just to watch the fights. Only in Ticona. Is that goalie on the left shirtless? No, it's just like one of those tight, I don't know, like
Under Armour?
spandex shirts, if you will.
Compression
Under Armour,
shirt?
something like that. So anyways, you can check that out, speaking of fighting. What a weekend of NFL action, Reem. I think that the 3 primetime games they had this week might be the greatest 3 primetime games that they ever had back to back in regular season history. And the game last night was really good, with the Patriots. But the Thursday nighter, which we talked about on Friday, set the bar incredibly high. And that Bears-Packer game on Saturday night was almost as crazy. The Bears come back with 10 in the last 2 minutes, get an onside kick, score on a 4th and goal with 20 seconds left to tie the game, and then win it in overtime. What a win for the Bears, and a devastating loss for Green Bay, blowing that lead and having Jordan Love leave the game and not return with concussion.
Yeah, it always feels like Christmas or the holiday season when you get those December Saturday NFL. We had the Eagles winning over the Commanders, but that Packers-Bears game, pretty garbage for most of it. Jordan Love injured, Malik Willis goes in, and, as you said, the onside kick recovery almost never happens anymore. They showed the stats on that, and credit to Caleb Williams and the Bears, 11-4. This game had playoff implications, great teams, and Odunze's hurt, so DJ Moore steps in, 5 catches, 97 yards, and that game-winning touchdown. So, nice win from the Bears. I'm curious if they're going to do anything in the playoffs. I still don't know if I buy them, but this was a big win for them, and very cold out there in Chicago. So that was a great game on Saturday, and we had, I thought, last night's Sunday night game, a nice finish as well. You mentioned the other Thursday game, so games getting more and more important, although you do have some duds, but the Steelers-Lions had a crazy finish too.
Dude.
Yeah, so nice.
How about Mike Tomlin and Rodgers getting it done again? That's a massive win. Devastating for Dan Campbell and the Lions. And Pittsburgh death taxes and Mike Tomlin finishing with a winning record and probably making the playoffs and then losing in the first round. And that has basically been the story since 2008. You mentioned the Bears. Up at Coolbet, there's been one of those combo cards that's been up all year. The worst to first for the Niners and the Bears to win their divisions. At one point this season, 4 or 5 games in, I think this was about 60 or 65 to 1. And now it's plus 444. I know Connor's got a piece of that one from earlier in the year. And his Niners going up against Phillip Rivers tonight. But yeah, from yesterday, the Bills squeak by the Browns in Cleveland, 23-20. Chargers get a big win, ending Dallas's season. The Titans beat the Chiefs. Gardner Minshew tears his ACL. I can't even remember the guy's name. Chris Oladokin.
Who?
Is now, exactly. He's now the starter for the Chiefs. I saw Matt Castle saying that he's good to go if they wanted to give him a call.
Phil Rivers can go, and who else can we dig up?
No, exactly. Well, and the funniest thing is, I'm going to this Week 18 game, which is going to be, in all likelihood, Chris Oladokin and who knows from the practice roster backing up against, could it be Geno Smith? Will it be Kenny Pickett? Will it be AOC? I don't know. It'll be a very stress-free game, though, yesterday. And yes, I did. Now that I'm a free agent for the playoffs, I was able to see the board clearly, knowing how many of the Chiefs regulars were out. I wasn't expecting much, and not only did the Titans cover, but they won outright in that game yesterday. But it was some big-time injuries. Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson as well. We'll see what his status is for. Big win for the Saints. Bengals get a win over the Dolphins. No big deal. Vikings lose J.J. McCarthy, but hang on to win. But the biggest game, and this is going to probably go down right to the wire, is what's up in the NFC South. And the Carolina Panthers, Remis, end up picking Baker Mayfield off in the final minute as Tampa looked to tie or win the game. And the Panthers are in sole possession of first place in the NFC South, but those two teams will meet again in Tampa in the final week of the season. That was an interesting one, and probably the biggest win of the entire week was the Jags. I mean, the Jags went into Denver and put up 34 on a top 2 defense in the league. Trevor Lawrence seems to really hit his stride right now, and I wasn't buying them all season. I wasn't certainly buying them after their explosion against the Jets of all teams. I'm buying them now after that win in Denver. I think the Jags are going to be a very tough outcome playoff time.
Their offense has really gotten boosted since the Jacoby Myers trade, and he's been excellent at receiver. Travis Etienne's had a bunch of great games, and they've got a nice receiver room for Trevor Lawrence, who's really stepped it up. And you look at their schedule. They had played some garbage teams, they beat up on, look at this win streak they're on. Arizona, bad defense. Tennessee, they're worst in the league. The Jets, they put up 48. But to do it in Denver, put up 34. And Trevor Lawrence had some really impressive numbers. I wonder if he's arrived and he's legit. The rest of their season, they play at Indy and versus Tennessee. So what are I guess they can't play Houston on that first Saturday of NFL playoffs. We'll wait and see what their matchup is, Huss. But I'm curious.
I guess technically they maybe could.
They're in the same division, though. Can you play the same division in round that you can do that?
Sure. Didn't the Lions?
Oh, yeah.
The Lions and the Vikings play last year?
I mean, Jags-Texans sounds like a Saturday first game of NFL playoffs if you ever had one. If there ever was one. So we'll see.
Basically, right now, as far as the playoffs go, there's not a lot to be determined. If the Colts lose tonight and fall to 8-7, I'm not sure whether they'll be eliminated, but they'll have to win both. Texans will have to lose both to get to a tie, and then we'll see what the tiebreaker is. The Ravens need to win out, and the Steelers need to lose out for the Ravens to make the playoffs and win that AFC North. And in the NFC, the Packers need a win it's basically going to come down to Green Bay or Detroit for in all likelihood, the 7th spot. Packers 9-5-1. Any win by Green Bay or any loss by Detroit will clinch their spot. And then the only other one that's not determined is who wins the NFC South. And that's the Panthers and the Buccaneers. Carolina 1 up on Tampa right now. Carolina next week gets they're home to the Seattle Seahawks. That will be a tough game. Definitely. And then Tampa finishes with Carolina. Next week, they are at the Dolphins. So I have a feeling we're probably going to be seeing 2 8-8 teams go at it. And that'll be the Sunday nighter, I guess, because it'll be a win and in. It'll essentially be an extra playoff game. Pat and Jake will jump on tomorrow. We'll kind of get into the latest, the lay of the land in the National Football League, and make some picks early for the week because, of course, Christmas Day, there's 3 games. They've sort of been ravaged by injuries, but some other big games on the docket. So we'll kind of do our WST winners a little early this week to get some picks in before the weekend and before the Christmas games. Of course, don't forget tonight, if you joined us late, poker, WST style at coolbet.com tonight, 8 p.m. Top 4 finishers get a ticket for the Costa Rica trip finals on Monday, January 12th. Join us tonight go to Coolbet, click on poker. Once you get into the poker side, go into tournaments, search WST. It's tonight at 8 p.m. It'll show up as December 23, 3 o'clock CET. That's just the home spot of the timing that the thing is on. But 8 p.m. it gets going tonight. Hopefully we'll see you there. Should be fun. No one got my bounty last time. And, of course, there'll be a bounty on Remis, Hammer, and myself, $100 to whoever takes us out. As far as tonight's Coolbet lines go, it's a 5-point spread with the Niners in Indy. Indianapolis plus 205 to win the game. San Fran minus 227 on the money line. Total for the game is 46.5. I might have to just jump on a little Phillip Rivers player prop just for fun, Remo. The number's not big. 162.5 passing yards is his total, is his over-under. I think he was 128 or something like that in the first game. And you know what? I like the receiving yards for both of the running backs tonight. McCaffrey's 40.5. Jonathan Taylor, 19.5. I like Jonathan Taylor to get 20 yards in the air. And then his rushing number is something like 98.5. So some big numbers. Any thoughts on this? Do you give Uncle Phil much of an opportunity to keep in this game, or is this the Niners all night?
I think it's the Niners. I think Indy's D was able to hold Seattle out of the end zone, and it kept the game closer than it maybe was. San Fran, I think they'll be able to move the ball, get some points. They're a 5-point favorite. It's going to be tough, I think, for Phil Rivers, who, he's got this doesn't throw the ball very far, and I think they're going to struggle to move the ball. So we'll see how it goes. I do need McCaffrey in fantasy. I'm playing Billick in the Media League playoffs for our fantasy league, so I am hoping for McCaffrey to get 2 touchdowns in the Niners.
We'll be pulling for you. We need WST representation in the final. I'm out. Connor's out. Connor had a really good season. Me, not so much, decimated by injuries. But yes, we will wish you good luck and wish everyone good luck that's still in their fantasy semis trying to make it to the final tonight. NHL, there is 4 games tonight. St. Louis is in Tampa. How about the Blues going into Florida and lighting them up for a 6-2 win?
That game was on, and it was the guy they picked up off waivers on Saturday, Jonathan Begrin, who was playing in his first game against the Jets. He had 3 points for them on Saturday, so made me feel a bit differently. 6-2 win, and feel a bit differently with the Jets' lack of success against St. Louis on a Wednesday. But yes, it was Jonathan Berggren had a goal and 2 assists on Saturday. I was impressed by that. Waiver pickup, Huss.
Yeah, I'm not buying into the Blues for tonight. I'm actually taking the Lightning puck line for them to win by 2. I think the Canucks have won 4 in a row since the Quinn Hughes trade. And that's why they're in a dead heat with the exact same record as the Jets today. I think Philly wins this game tonight, though. Philly minus 133. And also like the Ducks in their game tonight against the Kraken. Put those together. Plus 463. If you want to ride with Tampa, puck line, Flyers, and Ducks. Columbus in LA to take on the Kings at minus 159. I believe Mason Marchwood, I think, scored in his first game with CBJ on the weekend.
Yeah, we did have 2 trades. It was the roster deadline, before the holiday freeze, and Mason Marchman, who we talked about on Friday's show, is linked to the Jets by Elliot Friedman and 32 Thoughts. Traded to Columbus for 2 draft picks, and that was the trade, and he got on the board. And it was the other Phil Deneau going from the Kings back to Montreal. They missed him, his defensive presence. He was so good for them. Or wait, am I thinking of, was it when they went to the Cup, or am I thinking of Paul Byron? I think it was around then.
He might have been there on the in the COVID year.
Yeah, when they went
when they beat the Jets.
Yeah, when they went to the Cup, wasn't he big defensive? Then he got paid after by LA. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, he's going back.
Habs have a tough time defending. He'll be a nice ad. Wasn't doing a lot. Doesn't score a lot, but
Yes, he was on their team. And then after that, that's where he made all his money in that COVID playoff, as he played 22 games for them and then signed the contract with LA. And he kind of got pushed down by PLD when PLD signed, or he pushed PLD down because PLD was eventually the fourth line player before getting moved. And they've got Byfield at second line center now and Alex Turcotte at third. So interesting deal there from the Kings.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of a wrap tomorrow on the pre-Christmas portion of the sched. We'll have the latest on, there won't really be anything new on the Jets, just more to talk about as to a look into the crystal ball into the rest of 2025, the Wild's visit and the Oilers visit Saturday and Monday, and then the team hitting the road before a very home-heavy month of January, where the team will try and make their way back into the playoff race after struggling the way they have over the last little bit. Hey, big thanks to Kenny Wiebe. Great conversation with Ken today, and Shane Malloy. Looking forward to the World Juniors this year, as well as some of the players that I know you guys have already been mocking in the Tankathon. At Tankathon, you can do a draft lottery, Reem, as well, and it will automatically make the picks as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's where we're gonna end up going. You look at the draft lottery simulator here.
Ooh, I just clicked on it. The Tankathon one.
Yeah.
Jets move up 2 spots to pick first and get Gavin McKenna.
It would be like they don't have any high-end prospects, and you look at the NHL, scoring leaders. Look at the top 10. How many of these guys are number 1 overall picks? You have Celebrini, Bedard, McDavid, McKinnon, Eichel was in there, all in the top 10.
Yeah. And,
shout out to Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, who are number 10 and 11 in points right now. But it would be a big boost. You see what Matthew Schaefer's doing with the Islanders. If you're not going to make the playoffs, you're not going to get points for finishing. There's no brownie points for 2 points out of a playoff spot. So if they're not going to get in, try to get a high pick. I think it would be a big benefit to them.
Well, that's where they are right now. As they say, you can go to tankathon.com if you want to do the mock draft, and you just press Sim Lottery, and then it makes the picks. But yeah, I just did it once, and Gavin McKenna, a Winnipeg Jet. Wouldn't that be something? Keaton Vorhoff, though, from North Dakota is another. Either of the top 2 picks, I think you're in a very, very good shape. And if you missed it earlier, we talked to Shane Malloy, this Ivar Stenberg, who's the consensus number 3 pick. Very exciting Swedish prospect as well. But that's going to do it for us. Don't forget, 8 o'clock tonight, WST Poker. Hopefully see you some of there. Good luck to everyone in both qualifying for the Costa Rica final and getting the $100 bounties on myself, Remis, and Jeff Hamilton. We will be back tomorrow with one more show before Christmas. Jets at the break and much more. Join us tomorrow live, 1 p.m. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy the Monday Nighter. Good luck in poker. Hopefully we'll see you there. And join us tomorrow one more time before Santa comes at 1 p.m. right here live on YouTube on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night. Thanks to all of our sponsors and all of you for making us a part of your day.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.